Hello, and welcome to episode number 36 of the Marriage Coach Podcast, where we are here to help you take your relationship from surviving to thriving.
Today on the Marriage Coach Podcast, we're going to be concluding on today the marriage vows. On today, we're going to be discussing forsaking, keeping, loving, and cherishing.
So today, as we conclude the marriage vows, we've gone through all the marriage vows that are in a traditional Christian wedding ceremony. In the first episode, remembering the vows, we put the entire vows and everything that you will repeat after the minister, the priest, or whoever on your wedding day in the show notes. And so today we conclude with the final three: forsaking all others, keeping myself to you only, and to love and to cherish. And as we were talking, we continue to discuss what these things mean for us. We took a deeper look at each and every word that these vows encompass. The first week we said the vows were loaded. The second set of vows we talked about, we said they were heavy. And this set of vows we call connecting. They are connecting everything that you are promising to the person that you are loving or the person that you are marrying on that day. It's connecting every aspect and every part of your life as a couple, and it's saying what you promise, what they can count on, and what you are going to give to the relationship.
I mean, this is really loaded. I mean, forsaking all others, to keep yourself to them and them only, and to love and to cherish. It really connects all the dots, because this is like the conclusion of what all these things mean. I mean, it's the conclusion of having that type of vibe in the relationship. I mean, love is so crucial. And I think this is very important when you're moving forward, in your life, and saying, you know what, I'm going to love and cherish you. I think that's the cherry on the top to make everything stick and hold together.
Absolutely. And these vows being the connecting vows, when I began to think about the vows that we've talked about in the previous weeks and the vows that we're talking about today, I thought about the fact that all of them were about you to the other person. It was nothing about you yourself. It was you to the other person, what you are committing. These three parts of the vows that we're covering today: forsaking all others, keeping myself to you only, to love and cherish you. It's all connecting to what you're saying in the vows you are going to do to the other person, for the other person, what you're going to bring to the marriage. And it was just profound that it's like, what the whole thing that I believe, and the thought that I had, that I felt like God was designing as these vows came together, is the fact that marriage is not about you as the individual, but what you can bring to the other individual. And we've talked about that before, but just going through these vows step by step, it made it more clear. It made it take root in the heart that really a marital relationship is not about what you're going to get out, but what you're going to put in. It's not about what the person can do for you, but what you're doing for them, what you're doing for the relationship, what you're doing for your family, for the legacy, for the team that you all are creating together. And that was just like, wow, it's something that we said, but for it to take root, it took it to another level, that is really not about you. Once you stand before God, we talked about that. You stand before God, you stand before all of these witnesses that attend this ceremony, however many there are, and you're making this solemn promise, this covenant between you, your significant other, and the Lord, to say, this is what I'm going to bring to this relationship. This is what the other person can count on me for. This is what I'm going to give, despite anything else, because none of the vows are about what the person will do for you until they are repeating them. When they are repeating them, they are now committing, they are now promising what they would do for you. But when you are repeating them, it's about what you're bringing to the relationship, what you're bringing to the marriage, what you're committed to do, what you're promising to do, what you're promising to not do. All of that is on you to the recipient, and then vice versa.
And the vows really look at from perspective of looking at yourself, inwardly, because oftentimes it happens in a lot of marriages where, you're in this marriage, you're in this relationship, and what tends to happen is something. Every relationship, when there's a problem, is always the focus is on
The
what the
other
other person
person.
is doing and not exactly on what you are doing or what you can do different. It's always about the other person. And what's in this something to really think about, because even when you say, marriage counseling, marriage coaching, talking to a couple in a relationship, what tend to happen, the individual is pointing the finger at the opposite person. And the same thing, the opposite person is normally pointing the finger at that individual. And it's normally a going back, and it's like, you did this, you did this, you did this. And then the other person is, you did this, you did this. But it's like, what can I do? It's like that same couple, if they would look at themselves and say, where did I go wrong, instead of where did you go wrong? And then the opposite person, like, where did I go wrong? Instead of whether you go wrong. The vows is really that simple. In the beginning, it's not even talking about what the person can do for you. It's saying, this is what I'm going to do for you because of our relationship, because of our connection. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to love, I'm going to cherish you, I'm going to hold you, I'm going to keep you. I mean, I'm going to honor you, I'm going to respect you. I mean, it's all this is like, it's part of what I am going to do. So it's like, in spite of what you do, it's about
This
what
is
I
what I'm
do.
going to do.
And I think, really going into marriage, going into relationship, just focusing more on us. What are we contributing, and what are we getting out of it?
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go ahead and get into it. So the first thing we're going to discuss is forsaking all others. Let's explain that.
So, forsaking all others, the word forsaking means to give up, to abandon, or to renounce. So, when
Mm,
we look at forsaking all others, the way I see this in form of, I'm whatever was before you is no longer anymore.
yeah,
All the people that I was in relationships with before, any circumstances or situations that were before you,
yeah,
I'm giving all of that is being given up today because I'm forsaking that. And not in a negative connotation, but in a more positive manner.
yeah.
When it comes to your family and your
Mhm.
friends and all those things, you're making this person more important than all of that. You're saying we are coming together as a team. This is not about anybody else, it's about us. But you are committing that as an individual, as the person that is standing here marrying you today, nobody else that I was with before you will come before you.
All right.
Nobody else that I was with before you will have a part of me after I'm with you. No one else that I was with before you will be a part of this team, this relationship.
Yeah,
This is me and you. And now we are becoming a team. So these three little words say all of that.
yeah.
We're giving up everything of the past and we're becoming a team.
Yeah, it's better said than done.
Mhm.
I mean, because you have, let's say, an individual, they have great friends. I mean, somebody went to college, and all your college friends, you got your BFF, you got all your friends, or you may have a son that have a strong relationship with his mother.
Mhm.
You have a daughter that have a strong relationship with her father, and so you have all these different things that plays a huge part into this whole forsaking all others.
Mhm.
I mean, because individual, you have a prior relationship,
Mhm.
being single,
Mhm.
and now you're getting married,
Yes.
giving yourself to this
This
person.
person. Mhm.
And I think a lot of times, get into a relationship, when we get into the marriages,
Mhm.
somebody has an expectation
Mhm.
that wasn't fulfilled.
Mhm.
But the expectation they had is not the expectation that we understood from the get go.
Mhm.
So it's like signing a contract, but in the contract, your perspective of what's forsaken others and my perspective of forsaking others mean totally different. Because in my thing, it's like, okay, I want you to give up your friends, but I don't want to give up my strong relationship with my mother.
Mhm.
And from a point of view, it's easy to look at the opposite person and say,
Mm.
you need to let this go. You need to let this go. Why? Because you don't have any soul ties to it.
Mhm.
Why? Because you're not tied to that friendship. Why?
Mhm.
Because you're not tied to those relationships. So because you're not tied to those relationships, it's easy for you to let it go in your head and expect the other person to let it go because they're married to you. Yeah, I mean, let's say the husband had his a set of kids and the wife had a set of kids. I mean, it's so easy for the husband to tell the wife you need to let the let the kids this is this, and it's easy for the wife to tell the husband it's easy for you let this. Why? Because I'm not connected to that relationship in that way. And I think that's one of the things that we have to understand and discuss prior to
Hmm.
forsaking all others. What does this mean to you, and really digging into some things, because forsaking all others it means what it is.
And I think what the thing about it is I think a lot of people look at it from a standpoint as a negative thing, a wrong thing. But when you're marrying a person, you're putting them in a specific slot.
Yeah,
And if we
a
think
slot
about,
on his own.
yeah, if we think about order, one, two, three, A, B, C, B doesn't come before A.
Mhm.
C doesn't come before A.
Yeah,
The order is A, B, C, one, two, three.
yeah,
So, with that being said, when you're thinking about the giving up of this, if you had children prior or your parental relationship, giving up doesn't mean Xing those people out of your lives. It means
absolutely.
putting them in the proper order.
Yeah,
It means that
because now
you
the
hang,
order has changed.
yeah, it means
The
that
order
you
has
hanging out
changed.
with your mama
Yeah.
and what your mama say don't come before what your spouse
Right. I
says.
mean, because in the beginning, when it was mother and son,
Yeah,
that was the
mama can put
relationship.
input
And
all she
mama,
want.
mama is number
Yes.
one. But
Mm-hmm.
when you get married, mama become
Yes.
number two
Number two.
and no longer
Yeah.
number one.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what forsaken is. It's not just I'm abandoning my mom and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to leave her alone. I'm a daddy's girl. I'm going to leave
It's
my
a
dad
bad.
alone. No, it's putting your husband before your dad. It's like now my dad was number one,
So
but now when I got married, my dad becomes number two and my husband becomes number one.
so we're abandoning the order
Yeah,
because
there you go.
now
Oh, that's
there's a
good. That's
there's a
good.
new order.
That's good.
So we're abandoning the order because to let go, we're abandoning the way things were originally
Yeah,
set up in our lives,
yeah,
because now we're taking on a significant other,
yeah,
and now we're standing before God promising that we're going to forsake everything
yeah,
else, because he didn't say forsaking former relationships,
yeah,
that's included,
yeah,
but that's not what he said. He said forsaking all others.
yeah.
Forsaking all others means every other thing that was once before
Mm,
in this spot has to be, you got to be, you move to a different order,
yeah.
and you're still mom, you're still dad, but I don't go to dad for all the answers
That's good.
because I have a husband.
Well
I
said.
don't go to mom for all of her input because I have a wife.
Yeah,
So we're abandoning the order and giving up the order of the way our lives once
yeah,
was to include the person that we are now creating a team with.
yeah, yeah. So basically, forsaking all others is really just changing the order.
Shifting the
It's
order, yeah.
shifting the order in your life
Hmm.
on how you present or what you are to the people that you're in a
Exactly.
relationship with.
What you give your honor, your respect, your first to. Because if I'm going to dad before I talk to my husband, that's out of order. Your friend could be the most loving person in the world to your spouse. Your mother could be the most loving person in the world to your
Yeah,
spouse. Your children could be, they could be either way. They could love the spouse, they can give you hearts because kids are
absolutely.
kids.
Yeah,
So either way. And then you could have those family members, mother, father, friend, that's just totally blatantly, this is my friend house, that type of stuff. This is my friend car, blah, 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 blah. This is my daughter. This is my whatever. You can have that too. But so for either way, but either or, even if they are a good friend,
yeah,
there could still be a time when the friendship can become disruptive to the marital relationship. So it is very important, vitally important, that we sit down and we talk about, if you have kids already, I have kids already, or either has a kid already, what is this going to look like after we're married? You have parents, I have parents. What is it going to look like after we're married? How much input are they going to have? How much are they going to be involved? Your friends, my friends, whatever. Just talking through these things gives, I believe, it cannot erase everything that could come up, but it prepares you for the things when they come up. If they come up, you're ready to deal with them because you've talked about some. It will stop some things from coming up, but for other things that arise later, it gives you a footing for how we will handle
yeah.
these things.
And it changed the game. I mean, even for fact. I mean, in every scenario is totally different.
Different.
I
Hmm.
mean, if you have, let's say, from the married couple, somebody get married and immediately have to stay with one of the parents,
Hmm.
that's a whole different situation,
Yes.
And it's like so it's a lot of variables in this, but just overall, just really having this conversation, forsaking all others, because I
Hmm.
mean, if you moving with you get married and you're
In-laws.
moving with the in-laws. I mean, saying forsaking all others. I mean, what, you still to ask that
There's going to
question.
be a different
What
dynamics.
what does this mean?
What does
What
this
does it
look
mean?
like for us?
You have to
Yeah.
set the vision in advance.
Yeah.
And I think setting the vision, I mean, really, that's key.
Yeah.
Setting that vision in advance will really help a lot of issues happening because
Absolutely.
you already set the vision, you already seen it, and you caught it
Prepared
before.
yourself
You
for
prepared yourself
possible.
before it
What's
happened. Yeah,
possible. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
I mean, of
good.
course, there's gonna be some things that's gonna catch you by
Hmm.
surprise. First, your first time getting married. I mean, you don't know what a husband or a wife is like. I mean, so
Right.
you have to get all that too as well. All right,
Absolutely.
so we talked about forsaking all others. Let's talk about keeping yourself to them only. What do that mean to you?
Keeping myself to you only. This is faithfulness.
Yeah,
This is commitment.
yeah,
This is honesty. This is togetherness. This is trust.
yeah,
This is you trusting me. I'm trust. This is me being trustworthy.
yeah,
This is me being honest with you. This is me being faithful to you. This is me putting you first.
yeah,
This is me. There's nobody else going to be in our bed but me and you.
yeah,
Not in no way, no way, no one else. When we stand on this day and we take these vows
yeah,
from this day, because at the end that's what we say, from this day forward,
yeah,
for as long as we both shall live, I'm now committing to you, regardless of what I did whenever. That's over with. There's no one else going to be in the mix of this. There's
mm,
no one else you're going to be compared to you. My body is now belongs to you.
yeah.
The sexual intimacy is between me and you only. You can trust me. You can trust me with your whole heart. And I'm promising you that I'm going to show you that I'm trustworthy.
Yeah, and I believe, and this was I remember when I was in the military. This was kind of I did it. I thought it was kind of useless at the time. We were married, is pornography, for example. I remember a neighbor down the way. He shared some some things. Oh man, check her out and things like that. I mean, it can become addictive.
Mhm.
And I realized even something like that, something so simple can really, I mean, it's like now you're mentally has introduced somebody else in the
Into
bedroom,
the yeah.
and it causes issues within the individual. And I think for anybody, I talk to brothers and sisters, for anyone who's secretly struggling with porn addiction, really, 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 really. I mean, you may be embarrassed to even seek some help about it, but I want you to really deal with that. That it's not okay. It's not
Hmm.
okay.
Absolutely.
It takes away from the intimacy between the husband and the wife,
Mhm.
and mentally, I mean, you're getting somebody else sexually involved in your mind. Really thinking about this and really just considering what I'm saying, maybe framing away from it or getting some help with it, even with your spouse. Maybe you're all just bluntly, just share pornography and watch whatever together. I highly
Advise against it.
advise against you
Yeah.
bringing somebody else
Anything.
into your bedroom, because the little things, I mean, you have them
It
times, I
leads
mean, you
in.
have you have it happens all the time. You have couples, whether it's male or female, people step outside their marriage and nobody know why,
Mhm.
and have no idea how pornography is affecting your intimacy. And especially when you buying the tape for you all to watch together, it's like you
Yeah.
brought it to your sacred place, and now somebody has slipped outside the marriage, and nobody knows why.
Mhm.
Why? Because it's those small things that mentally affect us
Yeah.
so
True.
much.
True. True.
And now we're falling out of love because we're seeing something on the screen, and what's on the screen is presenting itself to be so much pleasurable than what I'm actually dealing with. And it causes problems and issues in our lives. Keep yourself only. Hey, I'm throwing a point in it.
Yeah, and when you said that, I was thinking about that because my next statement for that was to hold what you have sacred.
Yeah.
And when something is sacred, you know that's how we are about the Bible. Oh no, don't put that on top of my Bible.
Exactly.
Don't do
Yeah, you wouldn't.
when you hold the bed between you and your spouse,
Yeah,
behind closed doors, when you hold that sacred, that means no one else is allowed in there.
yeah,
Nothing else is allowed in there. That means that nothing else, no one else can be a part of this, because just what you said happens. I mean, you once you get something in your head, doesn't
it's
matter
the
what it is.
image. You can't
Once
get
you
rid of
get
it.
it in your head,
Can't get rid of it.
it becomes a part of something that's subconsciously back there.
Yeah,
And now you want them to do all of this and all of that. And when they don't, you're dissatisfied
yeah,
or they're not doing enough, or they don't please you. Now, it was fine for you, okay, before you were introduced to this, but now that you're to a point where this no longer pleases you. And that's because instead of you growing with your spouse, instead of the two of you talking about what you like and what you don't like, working on what feel, and we just being real here, right? Working on what feels good to you with each other, what you
Mm,
like and don't like. Be honest with each other about
yeah,
that and work on that together
yeah.
versus inviting something else or someone else in to show this is what should be done or this is how it should go.
Mm,
And that's the thing, when you're playing with things like that that are outside of the realm of what we should be doing in a covenant relationship,
yeah,
then you're playing with fire and
yeah,
somebody's gonna get burned.
yeah, yeah. And then when somebody get burned, it's like, how did I get burned?
Exactly.
Yeah, nobody knows. So
Exactly.
yeah, keeping yourself to that person. The next thing we're gonna deal with, as we close the podcast out, is love and cherish. Let's talk about that.
To love is a strong feeling
Yeah,
of affection. You have this great admiration for this person. It's just, I mean, for many of us, sometimes love is hard to put into words, but we know one thing, that it's a choice. So you choose to have this affection, this admiration, this longing for this person, this affection towards them. You're choosing to do that. That's what I feel to love and to cherish. And then to cherish them, cherish them means to hold them at a high regard, to have a high respect for them, a great intensity for them in your life. So this means that the things that I cherish, when I thought about this, I thought about my grandmother is deceased. And there are things that were passed on to me after my grandmother's death that I cherish. And I cherish those things because they're memories of my grandmother and it's a memory of who she is. So when I
mm,
think about cherishing you, my husband, I hold you in a regard where you're in a certain space in my life
right,
that nothing else can touch. You're in a certain space in my life that I keep you there because I cherish you. I cherish what we have between us. It's of great intensity and importance in my life. It's of this affection that I have towards you, the feeling that I have when you walk in the room, the feeling that I have just to know that you're going to come home, you're going to walk into the room, the feeling that I have to do this life with you, that I'm committing to continue to make it a choice, a intentional decision, because to love someone means that I still have this affection for you even in the hard times. It means I still have this affection for you even when we don't agree. I still have this affection for you even when you may not be doing what I want you to do, but I
mm,
have this affection for you. Think about your kids. You love your kids despite what they may do, what they have done wrong, wherever mistakes they've made. And love is love all across the board. I mean, you have a romantic relationship with your significant other that you would not have with other people. But we're not talking about the romantic aspect of it. We're talking about how you choose to be to that person and feel for that person, what you allow in the space. Because I believe I could allow things in the space, this space, that could create issues between us if I allow them. Same way we were talking about pornography. There's other things that you can allow to get in the space where the affection, where the intense feelings that you're supposed to have for your spouse
yeah,
is. You can allow other things to get in that space, and then you won't have those intense feelings. You won't have that feeling of attraction and affection and that longing. You won't have that because it's clouded by so many other things. So I think this vow is mainly about your choice to love this person, your choice to be affectionate towards them, your choice to hold them at a high esteem. It's about your choice.
right. It's an
Mhm,
action word. I mean, I think Apostle Paul in the Bible made it very clear.
mhm.
Said, "Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not jealous, love doesn't boast. Love is not puffed up." Because in the love in the Bible, I mean, it was all action.
A
I mean,
biblical love,
I mean, you go to these vows and look at these vows. I mean, it's really it's selfless acts.
selfless act.
It's selfless acts. Every vow, everything that
It
you
is. They
talked
are. They
about is
are
selfless
absolutely.
acts. So that's why
That's
I still go back to this whole summing it all up, to love and to cherish.
because that's the only, because it's like what to me really I feel like this, and this is really my idea. Like I don't even know how to explain love. You see what I'm saying? Because even when we think about Christ and what he did for us,
You can't
how do
explain
you
it.
explain
You
that?
can't explain it.
Like,
Yeah.
how do you explain it? There's no the words in the human language, feeling, action, none of those are even intense enough to explain what he did.
Yeah. So
And so it's the same way for us as a couple.
so
Like,
this is what for the listeners. Leave in the comments what love mean to you. Love and to cherish. What that mean to you. Leave it in the comments and let's have a dialogue. Let's have a conversation in the comments about that.
awesome.
After we conclude, remember the vows. Remember it and you revisit.
Put them in the show notes again, babe.
Okay. Put them
Yeah,
in the
put
show
them in the
notes.
show notes again. And we challenge you, read them, print them out, copy, paste,
Yeah.
print them out, and look at them and take a deep look because we've talked about it on a few podcasts. This is what it did for us.
What is did? I mean, what
What
is
it's
done? I mean,
doing. Yeah,
I'm
it's
saying, I
the
mean, because
act.
really, I mean, just this month, and I don't know. I mean, share your story, but I mean, even for us, even revisiting this and talking about this
Yes.
on the podcast, it puts some different things in perspective. I mean,
Mhm.
we talk, it's always different levels.
Yes.
Even taking your relationship, and it's really taking our
This
relationship to the.
thriving thing is
It's yeah,
continual.
it takes
It's
that. It's
That's
taking
why
it to
it's
the next level.
thriving.
Yeah, yeah,
Keep
yeah.
It's still
Yep,
going.
continuous. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I mean, that's what it's doing for us. But I mean, we're actually thinking about things
Thinking
that
about our
we haven't
relationship
thought about. Yeah,
in
it makes us.
years.
Yeah, it makes us
Years.
really take time to really think about our relationship, where we are, and where we're trying to go. I mean, it's been a blessing to us, and my prayer is
Yeah.
that it'll be a blessing to you as well. That this Marriage Coach podcast will also take your relationship from surviving to thriving, like it's doing for us.
Absolutely. I agree. So we want to thank you for joining us today on the Marriage Coach podcast. If you found this information helpful, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? Click the notification button and turn on your notifications so that you will be notified when we upload a video every week. If you're listening on iTunes, rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps us get the word out. We want to invite you to head on over to our leadership podcast, Lead to Greatness, where my husband is interviewing entrepreneurs and great leaders from all over the world every week.
So we want to thank you for joining us today on the Marriage Coach podcast. Looking forward to hanging out with you again on next week as we continue to help you take your relationship
From surviving to thriving. Bye. See you next week.